Dublin. I'm thrilled to be back here speaking to you. Two things before we start. The first is I have to apologize for the fact that I'm coming down with a cold, so forgive any disgusting hacking, coughing, sniffling that may occur during this talk. And the second is I'm going to talk to you about how I stumbled into having a sex tech venture and how that led me to see that sex tech is the next trillion-dollar industry. And so I want you to bear in mind, as you listen to me, this is not a talk about sex. This is a talk about business. I date younger men. They tend to be men in their 20s. And about 9 or 10 years ago, through dating younger men, I began realizing that I was encountering what happens when today's total freedom of access to hardcore porn online meets our society's equally total reluctance to talk openly and honestly about sex. The convergence of both of those factors results in porn becoming, by default, the sex education of today in not a good way. So, 9 years ago, I put up on no money a tiny, clunky website at MakeLoveNotPorn.com that posts the myths of hardcore porn and balances them with reality. The construct is porn world versus real world. I launched Make Love Not Porn at TED as the only TED speaker ever to have uttered the words, "come on my face," on the TED stage, 6 times in succession. The talk went viral instantly as a result, and it drove an extraordinary global response to my tiny, clunky website that I had never anticipated. People wrote to me from all around the world, young and old, male and female, straight and gay, and I realized I'd uncovered a huge global social need. So I saw an opportunity to do what I believe in very strongly, which is that the future of business is doing good and making money simultaneously. I saw the opportunity for a big business solution to that huge, untapped global social issue. And I stress the word big because even back in 2009 at concept stage, I knew that if I wanted to counter the impact of porn as default sex education globally, I had to come up with something that had the potential one day to be just as mass, just as mainstream, and just as all-pervasive in our society as porn currently is. So what I decided to do was I should emphasize that Make Love Not Porn is not anti-porn because the issue isn't porn. The issue is that we don't talk about sex in the real world. If we did, amongst many other benefits, people would be able to bring a real-world mindset to viewing what is simply artificial entertainment. Our tagline at Make Love Not Porn is pro-sex, pro-porn, pro-knowing the difference. And our mission is one thing only, which is to help make it easier for the world to talk about sex. Talk about sex openly and honestly publicly, and by that I mean parents to kids, teachers to classrooms, everyone to everyone, and talk about sex openly and honestly privately in your intimate relationships. And the reason that's important is because we don't talk about sex, it's an area of massive insecurity for every single one of us all around the world, no exceptions. We all get vulnerable when we get naked. Sexual egos are very fragile. People therefore find it bizarrely difficult to talk about sex with the people they're actually having it with while they're actually having it. Because you are terrified in that situation that if you say anything at all about what is going on, if you comment on the action any way at all, you will potentially hurt the other person's feelings, you'll put them off you, you'll derail the encounter, you'll potentially derail the entire relationship, but at the same time, you want to please your partner. You want to make them happy. Everybody wants to be good in bed. Nobody knows exactly what that means. And so you will seize your cues on how to do that from anywhere you can. If the only cues you've ever seen or been given are from porn, because your parents never taught you about sex, your school didn't teach you, your friends aren't honest, those are the cues you'll take to not very good effect. And so what I decided to do was to take every dynamic in social media and apply them to this one area no other social network or platform is ever going to go, in order to socialize sex and to make real-world sex and talking about it socially acceptable and therefore ultimately just as socially shareable as anything else we share on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram. So 4 years ago, my team and I launched MakeLoveNotPorn.tv, which is an entirely user-generated, crowdsourced video sharing platform that celebrates real-world sex. Anybody from anywhere in the world can submit to us videos of themselves having real-world sex. And we're very clear what we mean by this. We are not porn. We're not amateur. We are building a whole new category online that has never previously existed, social sex. So our competition isn't porn, it's Facebook and YouTube, or rather it would be if Facebook and YouTube allowed sexual self-expression and self-identification, which they don't. So social sex videos on Make Love Not Porn are not about performing for the camera. They're simply about doing what you do on every other social platform, capturing what goes on in the real world as it happens spontaneously in all its funny, messy, glorious, silly, wonderful, beautiful, ridiculous humanness. We curate to make sure of that, watch every video, don't publish unless it's real, and we have a revenue-sharing business model. I believe the business model of the future is shared values plus shared action equals shared profit, financial profit and social profit. I designed Make Love Not Porn around that business model. You pay to rent and stream social sex videos, and then half that income goes to our contributors, or as we like to call them, our Make Love Not Porn stars. Because we would like our Make Love Not Porn stars one day to be as famous and celebrated as YouTube stars, for the same reasons, authenticity, realness, individuality, and we would like them to make just as much money. We want to hit the kind of critical mass where one day your video on Make Love Not Porn could hit 1 million rentals at $5 per rental, and we give you half that income. We are the answer to the economy. We call ourselves the social sex revolution. The revolutionary part isn't the sex, it's the social. Because we're just doing what every other social platform does, connecting people. We engage and connect people around the social sharing of sex to get to better communication around sex, to get to better sex, to get to better relationships, to get to better lives. Now, when I embarked on this venture, I didn't realize that my tiny team and I would fight an enormous battle every single day to build it. Every piece of business infrastructure any other tech startup can take for granted, we can't, because the small print always says no adult content. And this is all pervasive across every area of the business in ways that people outside the sphere don't realize. I can't get funded. I can't get banked. My biggest operational challenge is putting payments in place. PayPal won't work with adult content. Mainstream credit card processors won't. Every tech service I want to use, be it hosting, encoding, encrypting, the terms of service always say no adult content. We had to build our entire video streaming, video sharing platform from scratch ourselves as proprietary technology, because existing streaming services won't stream adult content. And so I realized that I had one fundamental obstacle to overcome, especially when it comes to funding. Our biggest obstacle is the social dynamic I call fear of what other people will think. Because it's never what the person I'm talking to thinks. When you understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, no one can argue with it. The business case is clear. It is always their fear of what they think other people will think, which operates around sex unlike any other area. And by the way, fear of what other people will think is the single most paralyzing dynamic in business and in life. You will never own the future if you care what other people think. So I realized that I was going to have to pave my own way. I have to break down the business barriers in my own path if I want to scale Make Love Not Porn to be the billion-dollar venture I know it can be. And so I'm doing what I tell other entrepreneurs to do, which is when you have a truly world-changing startup, you have to change the world to fit it, not the other way around. I like to say that I'm in the Steve Jobs business of reality distortion. Because if reality tells me that I can't grow Make Love Not Porn the way I want to, I'm going to change reality. And what I mean by that is, several years ago, I deliberately began defining, pioneering, and championing my own category, sex tech. I literally wrote the definition of sex tech. If you Google what is sex tech, I'm result number 1 on page number 1. And by the way, sex tech is any form of technology or tech venture that enhances, innovates, and disrupts in any area of human sexuality and sexual experience. And I began talking at tech conferences like this one about the fact that the next big thing in tech is disrupting sex in order to create receptivity for the category as a whole and for my own startup within it. So why is the next big thing in tech disrupting sex? 3 reasons. Here's the first one. This is the area of tech with the ability to deliver the biggest and most profound social benefit. Because we are so messed up about sex, we've defaulted it to an act, to a thing we do. It's not. Sex is personality. Our sexuality is a fundamental part of our humanity, a fundamental part of how we feel about ourselves, other people, our relationships, our lives, our happiness. And at the moment, technology is impacting that in a whole other way. The reason for Make Love Not Porn is because the average age today at which a child is first exposed to hardcore porn online is 8 years old. And a global study done 3 years ago by the internet security provider Bitdefender indicated then that age had dropped to 6. This is not because 8-year-olds, 6-year-olds go looking for porn. They don't. It's a function of what, in the digital world we live in today, is utterly inevitable and cannot be prevented no matter how hard you try. They stumble across it. A father wrote to me on Facebook a couple of years ago, a stranger. His message was headed, "My wife and I cannot thank enough what you're doing." He said, "We have a 10-year-old son, and we decided it was time to have the sex talk." So I sat down with him, and he said to me, "Daddy, why do men wear masks when they're having sex?" And this father said, "We have parental controls on our iPad, and yet my 10-year-old son has managed to find his way to a site where men wear masks when they're having sex." He said, "We can't thank enough. When he's older, we're sending him to your site." I said to you earlier that I believe the business model of the future is shared values plus shared action equals shared profit. My startup is a manifestation of my own beliefs. I believe that everything in life and business starts with you and your values. So I regularly ask people this question: what are your sexual values? And nobody can ever answer me because we're not taught to think that way. Many of us, if we're fortunate, are born into families and environments where our parents bring us up to have good manners, a work ethic, a sense of responsibility, accountability. Nobody ever brings us up to behave well in bed. But they should, because there, empathy, sensitivity, generosity, kindness, honesty are as important as they are in every other area of our lives and our work where we are actively taught to exercise those values. So when we open up about sex, when we're able to speak more easily and honestly about it, parents can bring up their children to have good sexual values and good sexual behavior in the way they bring kids up to have good values and good behavior in every other area. We cease to bring up Brock Turner's, the Stanford rapist. When we inculcate in society a universally understood gold standard of what good sexual values and good sexual behavior are, that everyone accepts and adheres to, we end rape culture. When we take the shame and embarrassment out of sex, when we socialize and normalize it, we also end sexual harassment, sexual abuse, sexual violence, all areas where the perpetrators rely on the shame and embarrassment we've imbued sex with to ensure their victims will never speak up, never go to the authorities, never tell anybody. So the answer to everything that worries people about sex and porn is not to shut down, censor, clamp down, block, repress. It's to open up. Open up the dialogue in the way we're helping to with Make Love Not Porn. Open up to welcoming, supporting, and funding entrepreneurs who want to disrupt all of this for the better. And open up to allowing us to do business in the same way everybody else does. And when you do that, you completely transform the landscape of what is considered to be the adult industry. I like in this context to repurpose Wayne LaPierre of the NRA's infamous gun control quote. The only thing that stops a bad guy with a business is a good guy with a better business. So, social benefit. But now let's get on to the brass tacks of this. Oh my God, guys, the money there is to be made. This is the single biggest unicorn-making, as in billion-dollar valuation venture opportunity of them all. Peter Thiel wrote in his book, 0 to 1, what valuable company is nobody else building? Secrets about people are relatively underappreciated. What are people not allowed to talk about? What is forbidden or taboo? The best problems to work on are often the ones nobody else even tries to solve. Peter Thiel isn't taking his own advice because he's not investing in sex tech. And by the way, that may be no bad thing given a few other rather dodgy things he's doing. But the point stands. There is a colossal amount of money to be made in this area, but actually in two areas, the second one of which right now no one even thinks about because no one even thinks it's possible. So the first area is, oh my God, the money to be made out of sex. We all have it. We all enjoy it. Recession-proof. Market never goes away. But the second area is, oh my God, the money to be made out of socially acceptable sex. When you do what we're doing at Make Love Not Porn, socializing sex, making it shareable and acceptable, you potentially double, triple, quadruple your returns when you normalize people feeling really okay about publicly buying into your goods and services, publicly doing what they do with everything else, advocate, share, recommend, review, and publicly badging themselves as brand ambassadors. That's the trillion-dollar financial future we're going after, which John Evans of TechCrunch recognized when he wrote about us last year and said, socially acceptable sex is a huge market. More interestingly, it's a huge new market. And here's the third reason the next big thing in tech is disrupting sex. Everything is redeployable. Rule 34 of the Internet states, if it exists, there is porn of it. Gallup's rule states, if tech exists, it's redeployable as sex tech. Every single form of technology, every single tech platform is redeployable in a sexual context. And I'll give you just one example. Obviously, all of you know Airbnb. I'm imagining many of you have stayed in an Airbnb. I'm also imagining many of you have had sex in an Airbnb. But Airbnb does not pitch itself as a great place to have sex, even though it is. So for that, you go to KinkBnB. KinkBnB has embraced the fact that people want to find amazing spaces to have sex in, openly and unashamedly. Everything is redeployable. So, for the past couple of years, as I said, I have been talking about championing sex tech while trying to raise $2 million to scale Make Love Not Porn. And by the way, $2 million is minimum viable ask. I'd love to raise more, but because the task is challenging, that's how much I'm looking for. And to give you some idea of how far that could go, in 4 years of public beta, even with the obstacles we face, at Make Love Not Porn, we have over 400,000 members globally. We have over 200 Make Love Not Porn stars. We've had over 1,500 videos submitted. We began taking in revenue on day one. Our absolute income every month is very low, in the very low 5 figures, because of the challenges we face. But in a world where the received wisdom is nobody pays for porn, they're paying for social sex, several of our Make Love Not Porn stars are making 4 figures at each payout. One couple who've been with us since the beginning have made over $20,000 in the 4 years we've been operating. One couple joined 18 months ago, have already made over $10,000. We've done all of this on only 2 full-time employees, one of whom is me unpaid. Scalable or what? Nevertheless, I have so far not managed to raise $2 million in funding. So I realized about 6 months ago that I was going to have to take this to the next level. In order to get my own startup funded, I have to get the entire category funded. And so I am now doing two things simultaneously. I'm raising $2 million to scale Make Love Not Porn, and at the same time, I'm raising $10 million to start the world's first and only sex tech fund. Because if nobody else will, then I'm going to. And it will ultimately be, thank you, and it will ultimately be the only sex tech incubator, accelerator, and holding company of the future. So I've given my sex tech fund a name. The name is derived from a quote by Chairman Mao, who famously said many years ago, in the interest of gender equality, women hold up half the sky. I think that is relatively unambitious, and so my sex tech fund is called All the Sky Holdings. And the derivation of the name is deliberate, because my fund will have a not exclusive, but primary focus on investing in radically innovative sex tech ventures founded by women. The most interesting things in sex tech today are coming from female founders. Women challenge the status quo because we are never it. We are finally owning our sexuality. We are finding unique ways to leverage that and capitalize on it in business terms. As I'm fond of saying, there is a huge amount of money to be made out of taking women seriously, especially in this area, because we get the enormous market that is women's needs, wants, and desires, historically deemed too embarrassing, shameful, or taboo to address in business terms. And by the way, when you tap into that huge primary market, you tap into an equally huge secondary market of extremely happy men. And here are just some examples of what I mean by female-founded innovative sex tech. Dame Products, Janet Lieberman and Alexandra Fine started Dame and created the Ava, which is a vibrator, a hands-free vibrator that women wear clipped to their labia during penetrative sex in order to be able to orgasm. Only a woman would have come up with that idea. T. Chang of Crave designed and makes beautiful USB-charged vibrators that are also jewelry. The received wisdom with sex toys is that they have to vibrate, they have to get you off. Wan Seng, who graduated last year from the Royal College of Art in London, created a line called Wisp, which are wearable sex toys that look like stunning pieces of jewelry. You wear them around your neck, on your arm, and when you wear them, they recreate the sensation of a lover's breath on your skin, a soft grazing touch, a completely new approach to erotic arousal. Alicia Outridge leads Romance, which is a fantasy match role-play app. You can decide your fantasy, role-play within it, be connected with other people who want to take the other parts. And Tina Gong came up with Happy Playtime, an app designed to destigmatize female masturbation by gamifying it. You literally work out on your smartphone how to get yourself off. And it has, obviously, its primary audience is women, huge secondary audience, straight men. So these are just some examples of what I mean when I talk about the fact that radically innovative sex tech is coming from female founders. And then imagine, when you invest in a number of these, the portfolio opportunity for All the Sky. Because what you have as a whole that is far greater than the sum of the parts. Amazing opportunities for cross-traffic, cross-promotion, cross-selling, and above all, cross-data. We have the potential to be the Kinsey of today. Real life, real world, real-time human sexual behavior, catch and aggregate in a way that nobody else is doing in an area that is notoriously research and data free. Because, of all the obstacles that I battle today, nobody is starting the ComScore of sex. By the way, they should. $1 billion business opportunity right there. And also, in the area of research and data, where there is the widest possible gap between what people say and what people actually do. And we are all about what people do. And importantly, at the hub of all of this is Make Love Not Porn, because we do two things that everybody else needs. Number one, we socialize and normalize sex. You can design the most amazing sex toy in the entire world, and if a couple cannot even bring themselves to talk to each other about their sex life, you are never going to sell it to them. And then secondly, we have the potential to generate safe for work and not safe for work social sexual content that is everybody else's product demonstration, promotion, and advertising. Because what we want to use that $2 million I need to raise to do is to expand into 3 areas of content our community is asking us for, and we're being offered content in all the time. None of this is finger in the wind stuff. This is literally the startup the world is crying out for. And on the same principles, user-generated, crowdsourced, curated revenue share. The first area is in many ways the most obvious, because parents and teachers write to us all the time. I want to build an area of Make Love Not Porn that is what I call the Khan Academy of sex education. Khan Academy, the online tutoring platform, tutors on every topic under the sun except this one. EdTech, as a category, is exploding, but not in this area. So we want to open up MakeLoveNotPorn.academy to global sex educators. You can submit to us, your videos, tools, materials, coursework, whatever it is. We will curate. We will publish segmented by age appropriateness. So if you're a parent going, oh my God, my 7-year-old just asked about this, what do I do? Here's where you go. If you're a teacher in a class of 14-year-olds, you go here. If you're an adult, you can go anywhere. We will charge to subscribe, download, bulk buy if you're a school, different revenue streams of different use cases, huge revenue. And we will split the income 50-50 with its creators the same way we do with our Make Love Not Porn stars. Because right now, no one goes into sex education to make money. I want to change that because that is enormous valuable work. We also want to open up Make Love Not Porn social so that we expand the definition of social sex to include celebrations of body positivity, of relationships, love, intimacy, and across media, not just videos, but photographs, art, writing. In other words, to enable you to self-publish what currently gets you kicked off Instagram, blocked on Tumblr, Facebook account shut down, which is any form of natural, healthy, social, sexual self-expression, even something as natural as breastfeeding. If you publish a photo of yourself breastfeeding on Facebook right now, your account gets shut down. We're going backwards as a society when social platforms like Facebook operate that policy at the scale they do. And finally, we want to expand into Make Love Not Porn erotica, so you can self-publish erotic content, videos, movies, art, photography, writing, and that is where you will find the next 50 Shades of Grey, if not next 150 Shades of Grey. So that's one area. And by the way, guys, we have a documentary out. It's 15 minutes. It's online. It's called Make Love Not Porn, The Social Sex Revolution. Google it. You can watch it. It's on our YouTube channel. But here's the important second area that all the Sky is going to invest in. Every infrastructure challenge that sex tech founders face is a huge disruptive business opportunity in itself. I want to invest in the infrastructure of sex tech, because the first payment processor that operates to a new definition of adult content that embraces legal, honest, ethical, transparent sex tech ventures cleans up. The tech services that operate to a new definition that embraces the sex tech of the future clean up. A young entrepreneur reached out to me from Eastern Europe. He has a site called adulttranslations.com. He saw the opportunity, given the world is global, for translating the tags, the keywords that every sex tech venture needs. He can't get funding. His investors keep saying, why don't you just use this in the normal run of things? But there's huge opportunity there. Data analytics, as I said, the ComScore of sex. And a young woman approached me and said, I want to start a recruitment firm for developers who want to work in sex tech. So enormous opportunity to build the infrastructure and the ecosystem of sex tech in a way that will make just as much money. So the way to think about this is, I'm going to ask all of you to do things no one has ever asked you to do before. Start a sex tech venture, support a sex tech venture, fund a sex tech venture. Instead of that hoary old pitch of, oh yeah, we're building the Uber of blank, think about we're building the blank of sex. because that is where the opportunity lies. And here's another opportunity I want you to think about. Dublin as the global sex tech hub of the future. Because currently no city is doing this. And there's a huge opportunity to be the one that does it globally. And there are several reasons Dublin's peculiarly apposite. I don't have to tell any of you in the audience how much Ireland needs everything I've spoken about on the stage today. Right? Also, sex tech creates jobs. People write to us at Make Love Not Porn every week asking to come and work for us. I cannot tell you how many people want to work in the sex tech companies of the future. And thirdly, oh my God, kickstart the economy or what? Every other big bet ever made in the history of tech pales against sex tech. And so the last thing I'll say, guys, before we move on to the Q&A session we're about to have on all of this is, I would love Ireland to be the champion of sex tech, to embrace sex tech, to build the ecosystem of sex tech, to fund sex tech. I would love Irish investors for Make Love Not Porn. I would love Irish investors for All the Sky. And so hit me up, Cindy at MakeLoveNotPorn.com. I would love to hear from you. Thank you very much.